Diablo was defeated. For a time it seemed we would know peace. But it was not to be. For Diablo's essence lingers in the Black Soul Stone. I cannot destroy the stone, nor allow its evil to remain within the heavens. And so it must be hidden, even from the angels.
Jason, is there one more El Diablo joke that we can squeeze out of Diablo?
I was thinking about that, actually.
Yeah?
And I was just noticing how all of the monsters and the big bosses in there have these cool names, Baal,
right?
The Butcher,
right?
And a lot of them have names like taken from like the Lesser Key of Solomon and stuff like that.
Okay.
And Azrael, Azazel, Belphegor,
right?
Astaroth, and whatever. And then there's the Mexican word for devil.
El Diablo!
Diablo! It's like, really? How did you get this short?
What I'm wondering is, like, in the Spanish,
I say the Mexican word, like this is horrible racist.
Well, what I'm wondering,
the Spanish word
in the Spanish language version of Diablo 3 is, do they just call it devil? Is that what it's marketed as in Mexico and Spain? Is like Devil 3 from Blizzard Software?
Yeah. It's like, why can't I be Beelzebub? Diablo's like, there's so many different names for me to choose from.
Yeah. Well,
why do I have to be El Diablo?
The most ironic thing is the fact that we're reviewing here on Rage Slide Diablo 3 Reaper of Souls, and that this doesn't even have Diablo in it. Like, this is after the end of Diablo 3. So this is the latest expansion for Diablo 3, and this adds in a bunch of new stuff that we'll go over, but the main one is Act 5. So you've had Act 1 through 4.
Yeah.
Everybody's played Diablo. I'm going to try to stay away from any kind of Diablo 3 spoilers, which shouldn't be hard, but
guess what? You fight Diablo.
You fight Diablo at the end of Diablo. So in this expansion, this is after the end of Diablo 3, and you're in Act 5, and Rogue Angel Malthael has come out and taken the Black Soul Stone, and he's doing stupid shit with it. Well, he's doing some shit with it.
Free tacos for everyone.
I don't know, the plot of Diablo 3 was pretty straightforward, and when you finally kind of come to find out what Malthael is doing, it's like, okay, this I don't know. The plot line in Reaper of Souls was a little bit weak because they had you have one act. Like in Diablo 3, you had 4 acts to build up to this finale. In the 5th act of Diablo 3, which is around 2 or 3 hours long or something like that, 4 hours or so, you have one act from beginning to end to establish who this guy is, what he's doing, why he's doing it, and then I'm sorry, super big spoiler, you guys, and then, fighting him. So the development is fast. It's fast and loose and a little dirty. And this is maybe not if you're a hugely. I don't think people out there are there people out there who are like way into the story of Diablo.
Oh yeah,
okay,
there totally are.
Okay,
yeah.
I mean this is good and it's passable. It's nothing like to write home about. It definitely fits in with the lore.
It's as good as any other decently told video game story.
Yeah.
It's not like BioShock or something like that.
Right. Yeah, they're not
BioShock
pushing the envelope. I guess one of the things that maybe throws me off a little bit is the fact that over the course of this, you go from there's about there's 1, 2, 3, 4, about four different distinct areas in this game. You start off in a town type area, and then you end up in a swamp type area, and you end up in a really cool area that I'm not going to go into, and then you end up at the end of the game. And so the last two that I'm talking about are really interesting and creative, especially the third one. The third area that you go to is really cool. IHOP. Yeah, Denny's mostly.
Denny's.
Randomly, procedurally generated Denny's is all the rage these days.
Angel of Death is moons over Miami. And then he throws bacon at you.
Yeah. Dude, what if there was a bacon sword? Actually, one time when I was playing the game, I got one of those mini bosses that popped up, and its name was Zool. And I was like, yeah, fuck you, Zool.
How was it spelled?
Z-U-U-L.
Z-U-U-L.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because like X-U-L in some, like Sumerian means evil.
Oh, okay.
So, but Z-U-U-L, there's no questioning that.
But I
That's
looked at
Ghostbusters.
it, and I was like, So does that mean that somewhere in here there's a Gozer and a Vins as well? Because I haven't run over them yet.
Vigo the Carpathian? You were like the buzzing of flies to him.
God damn it.
I beat you.
It beat me to it. So anyway, there's these new things. I got to say that there's one, so Diablo 3 is always, it's different every time you play it. It's procedurally generated. They've done a really good job over the years of making it so that the levels fit together very well, and they kind of feel like traditionally made levels, but they're randomly generated with randomly generated monsters and stuff like that. There's one new type of level here. This is a weird thing, but it's this new map type that they bring out a couple times that really shows its head in the swamp a lot. That is a little bit irritating because it's mostly just an open area with big chunks that you can't get through into it. But for the most part, this is totally on par with all of the stuff that was in Diablo 3. I would have preferred. I know that this. I just would have preferred that they tried something. We've seen cities, we've seen swamps. The last two areas are great, but I wish they would have branched out a little bit more because I feel like we're starting to repeat ourselves in Diablo over and over again.
Yeah.
In any case, though, really good. But I'll tell you what is super, supreme, fantastically awesome. New character class, the Crusader.
Yes.
I absolutely love the Crusader, and I think that it's because
no sort of racial implications with calling a character Crusader. None whatsoever.
Yeah, well, I think that the Inquisitor, they already had that one in the Spanish Inquisition expansion for Diablo 2, right?
Yes. Yeah. What about the Klansman? Did they put that in there?
But the Crusader, it fills in a role that I didn't even know was missing in the original Diablo, which is your kind of traditional like sword and shield racist. Right, exactly. Because in the original they had the barbarian, they had the as far as melee fighters, the barbarian, they had the monk, they had the demon hunter, the witch doctor, the sorcerer, but they didn't have just kind of like big sword, big shield kind of knight character. And this really fills that role nicely. They're also all of their powers are kind of geared towards like area attack and surviving with high armor when you're got a whole bunch of motherfuckers around you, which means that when you play as a Crusader, it's just constantly getting like totally mobbed and then just hitting the 4 button and everything on the screen blows the fuck up.
Yeah.
And you're just like, yeah. Also, a lot of their gear seems to be set up for health regeneration and like upping your armor and stuff like that. So it was really satisfying. I played back through the entire game with the Crusader, and it was an immensely satisfying experience. I think it's a really good addition to what's already there and probably fits in nicely with the other classes. Now, we talked about this a little bit on the dojo, but when I played through the game, I played back through Diablo 3 on normal, right? I think it's the Crusader, but it was insanely easy.
Yeah.
Like Jason watched me fight Diablo like 3 times, and it was just nothing.
It was a cakewalk.
It was absolutely nothing. And I thought because one of the things that there was a patch beforehand that's supposed to change some of the difficulty, like it makes the difficulty adjust to your character level. And I thought, well, maybe they just retooled normal. But I went back and did some kind of experimentation with Barbarian, with my Witch Doctor, with a few other characters.
Yeah.
And on normal, those characters were still kind of getting their asses kicked a little bit, whereas the Crusader was just breezing through bosses. I used 2 health potions the entire time.
This has scalable difficulty now too.
It does, but I guess what I'm getting at is that when I went back to those characters, it was still not as difficult as it is on higher difficulty levels, but the Crusader that I had was barely taking any damage throughout the entire game.
Yeah.
Whereas these characters, you still had to use potions, you still had to manage their hit points. So I wonder if the Crusader might get tweaked at some point because it seemed just like
get nerfed.
Right. They seem like a total and complete powerhouse. Additionally, I feel weird because there's some stuff that's part of this expansion. There's some stuff that was part of a pre-expansion patch that was added into the game, but I feel like we should probably differentiate what is what. So let's talk about stuff that's specifically in the expansion. After you beat the 5th act, they actually unlock a new feature in the game called Adventure Mode, which is really cool, where you'll go to a map, and they've got all the portals on the map, and each area in the different acts has a brand new, like, bounty and maybe a thing, like an objective, right? So it'll say, go into this area, beat 100 guys. And then when you do that, you get some credits that you can use specifically at this new vendor for mystery items, where you just buy them and then you find out what it is once you bought it. You also get these Nephilim tokens, and once you get 5 Nephilim tokens, you can go and you can unlock this portal that goes to this Nephilim challenge realm, where basically every time you'll start out and it'll be one of the levels from Tristram, right? And then you'll exit that area, and you'll be in one of the areas from Act 4, and then you'll go through there, and you'll be in one of the other. So they really remix the levels, and they throw just a ton of enemies at you. And what happens is, there's a meter, and as that meter gets built up, when it hits the top, suddenly a new big bad giant, actually, to my character, challenging boss monster will come out, and you kill them, and you have the ability to get like much better drops off of them. So it's a way that you can really expand the game out. It gives you a reason to keep going back instead of just playing back through the narrative.
Right.
You're going back and you have these specific sub-objectives that you have to meet. Like sometimes it'll be beat a boss, sometimes they'll have spawned a certain type of enemy that you have to beat. And that's really adds a lot to the game. Like it gives you, because they're rewarding you, because it's not just slogging through the entire game over again, you have a very specific objective to meet, and it gives you a nice reason to go back and go through. Feels like you're making progress forward. You also gain levels a lot faster doing that because they throw more enemies at you than they do in the main game, which is very cool. So there's that. Additionally, there is one new crafter in the game, the Mystic, who has two pretty cool things. One we saw in the dojo episode. Yeah, two very cool things.
Large
here
boobs.
And here, lefty and righty. But she is able to do two things. You can transmogrify. I forget which one is which, but you can take any armor that you've got and you can basically skin it to look like a different armor. So you can customize the way that your character looks, which is really cool. It costs very little money as far as the game goes. It lets you just have a unified look to the way your character is, which is cool because nothing in fantasy pisses me off more than when you've got some kind of like upper level badass with purple shoulders
and yet you look like the Batman of Zuranar.
Right, exactly. Like you just got through raiding the local thrift shop for your armor. The other thing that they can do is you can put a piece of equipment into I think it's a transmogrify. I could be mistaken on that. And basically you can pick
You're right.
one of the stats, one of the boosts, right? So if you get like a shield and it's got plus X to health, plus X to vitality, minus 2% or 56 health per tick or whatever, you can pick one of those things and you use the standard crafting items from the game. And you can essentially remix that where you have hit this little button, it'll tell you what all you could get for that. So you kind of roll the dice and you can replace that with something else.
Right.
Randomly generate. It'll give you like 3 options. You can pick one of them that you want. That costs a lot of money, at least when I was doing it. But it's worth it because a lot of times you'll get equipment where you'll have like it'll have something on it that is like minus or plus 5% damage to this particular skill for your character, and you don't ever fucking use that skill. So you're like, I don't know, give me anything besides that because I don't ever use that. So you can go and customize that stuff. And it really gives you a way to develop more of, this sounds really weird, a relationship with like your equipment because you can really get in there and
just get
customize
granular
stuff,
with it.
right?
Yeah.
And really kind of get your character looking and with the right bonuses the way that you want it. It also gives you a reason at a certain point, once you've got a really high-level loadout, to keep going back and screwing around with stuff instead of just being like, well, I'm going to use this for the next 15 hours until I find something that's better than
right. It lets you kind of direct your progress a little bit more.
Right, exactly. You know what? I do want to mention one thing about the campaign before we go. The end of Act 5 was a little bit of a disappointment because I didn't get... once again, they didn't give you that super sex Blizzard cutscene.
Oh,
they
really?
Copped out with some of the drawing stuff.
Oh, yeah. That seemed that very much smacked of shortcuts.
Well, they did that in the main game, so I don't want to hit on. I mean, they only they only had a cutscene at the beginning and the end of every act. You know, so I don't want to hammer on them too hard. To me, it felt more like they couldn't make the super sex Blizzard cutscene and then render every single character class in there, so they had to have something that was more ambiguous. Mm-hmm. So, like at the end, when they're talking about it, and it's like, and that hero will go on to fight evil. I mean, like all these kind of vague specifics instead of like, and I'm like, dude, my motherfucker has saved the world like 3 times. All right,
render him.
Right,
he earned it
exactly. So then there's a bunch of other things that came in with a patch with this that we should talk about. Loot 2.0 came out. Loot 2.0. Fucking fantastic.
Yeah.
I got very, very little loot in this game that was not directly for my character. Like some of it was, a lot of it was not as good as what my character had. But for those of you who don't know what the Loot 2.0 was, it was back in the old days. You used to pick, and you could probably tell. Oh no,
Oh, yeah.
the console had Loot 2.0 already on it, I think. But
I don't know. I got some shit. It was like, oh, you defeated this enemy. Here's some
stuff that you don't ever
some
use.
Chewed gum,
Right.
and an old NASCAR T-shirt.
Right. There was nothing more irritating in Diablo than beating an enemy or finding like a rare orange item or whatever and having it be like a sword, and you're like, I'm a mage, asshole.
Yeah.
Like this is the God Slayer. I can't use this. So I would say that I only got, every so often I would pick up a piece of equipment that was for a different character class, but for the most part it was all for the Crusader what I was picking up. Also, I didn't even notice until I read it, but they made it so that lower level loot doesn't even drop as loot; it drops as the crafting material that you break it down into.
Oh,
so you just end up picking that up instead of like super low level loot.
Okay.
So at a certain point in the game, I was almost never picking up things that weren't blue or yellow.
Yeah.
Mostly blue, and then by the time you get up in the higher levels, it was almost all yellow. So that was a really cool added bonus, and it meant that you didn't have to drag through as much garbage, as you did previously. They also has, I talked before about the level scaling system that's in there. I'm pretty sure that's in for all versions, but it works really well. I always felt like, I felt like the game was really easy, but I never had too much problem with it. I did jack up the difficulty level to 1 above hard and played it there, and it felt like a good challenge. Like they were handing me more stuff that was a little bit more on par with me, with the way that I was playing. I had this thought while I was playing. It was probably the most egotistical thought I've ever had, Jason. I'm like, what if it's not the Crusader is really easy? What if I'm just like really, really good at Diablo and I don't even know it?
Pretty sure that's not it.
Pretty sure that's not it too.
Yeah.
Because the other part of my brain was like, dude, shut up. You suck. Go read the comments on your own website, asshole.
Yeah.
You're a terrible human being.
I think they'll clear that up for you real quick.
There was also a couple of the things. There's the Paragon system, I believe they call it, where once you hit level 60, you start gaining levels above that. Confession to make, I've never had enough time to play Diablo to get over level 60, so I've never really run up against that before. Other than that, like, this is just solid Diablo, and I gotta say, I tend to forget. Like, when did Diablo 3 came out? Like 2 years ago or something like that?
Yeah.
Somewhere around there?
That's about right.
And, I played it, I beat it, I really liked it, and then I played a whole bunch of games in between there, and then the expansion came out, and I was like, oh, yeah, Diablo. Oh, I'll load this up for a second. Oh, fuck.
Yeah.
I forgot. Diablo, what time is it? Oh, noon on the next day. Cool.
Exactly.
Like,
it will devour you.
It is so easy to just run through there. I mean, they still have that thing that...
It's like, oh, well, let me see what this kid outdoes.
Yeah, yeah. By the time that you get to the end, you're still... like, oh,
I'll just get to this.
Let's get to the next level.
I'm like this other area. Oh yeah, I'll beat this boss.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I got to finish this act.
Well, yeah, I'm 2/3 of the way there. I might as well just finish the act. So this is an incredible package, and I think that if you have any love for Diablo, that this expansion is a no-brainer, right? It adds another act, it adds another character, it adds, even if you're playing the old characters, going through the new act is cool. The adventure mode is cool. Actually, I should even note this. I forgot to even say this. The new act actually has a bunch of audio diaries that talk about like the Nephilim, and they added the Crusaders story back into stuff like that. So there's all this cool lore in there. It's really, really a solid expansion. I think that I wouldn't want to counsel people to wait for... like, if you don't already own Diablo 3, I would say that it's maybe not a bad idea to think about waiting for the battle chest or whatever edition it has.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure that by Christmas, this shit will be $40 for the whole thing or $50 for the whole thing. But if you already own Diablo 3, I think this expansion is totally worth it because it adds that adventure mode, the bunch of infinite replayability. It adds just a lot of cool stuff to tool around with in the game that wasn't there before. And it's all of the quality that we've come to expect from Blizzard. So... yeah, I'd say 4.5.
4.5. Not
perfect. I mean, it could have been a little bit longer. I gotta say, and I don't know how I should even feel about this. I was a little disappointed that there weren't, because in Diablo 2 in the expansion there were 2 new character classes.
Yeah,
I loved it in Crusader.
Here.
I would have liked to have seen another one in there.
Yeah,
I know it's kind of banging them for what they didn't do, but like.
You've already set that precedent, though.
$30 for the but for the expansion, it would have been nice to have one more character.
Yeah.
One new character, or a second new character would have given you even more reason to play back through a second time. It would probably expanded it a little bit for a game that's 2 years old.
Yeah.
So there are a couple things here and there that I felt were a little like lacking, but for the most part, goddamn, if you're into Diablo, why are you even? You probably already own it. I don't even know. Are you listening to me for? You're like, you know what? I'm not going to buy the Diablo 3 expanded until I hear what Jeff has to say about it.
That never happened.
I heard that guy's really good at Diablo.
The Nephilim will stop you.
No one can stop death.